Hi everyone, it's Joel from 8400 Lights, and in today's project I thought we would upgrade this old star prop from these dumb RGB strips to new pixel strips. Now I've had this prop for a number of years but never actually used it in my show, partly because it's a pretty heavy prop and I've never had anywhere strong enough to support it. But that's changed now that I have rebuilt the bases for my megapixel trees, and I can now put this on top of one of those trees. So I thought, rather than just putting this up and using this existing dumb RGB, which would have been fine, I've been hearing a lot about seed pixels. So I went ahead and got this string of seed pixels from Ray Wu, and I thought this would be fun to convert this prop from this dumb RGB onto these seed pixels, and then I would have a pixel-based 5-star prop that I could add to my light show. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and take off all of these older dumb RGB strips. Now we have all of those old strips off of our prop, so we can see the base structure of it. And these are the seed pixels that I purchased. I got these from Ray Wu. They are 5-volt seed pixels with about 1.5 centimeter spacing on them. And a couple of things. Why, first of all, seed pixels? Well, if you look at this prop, these stars are very close together. So trying to use a traditional bullet node would, I think, be very, very difficult. I could have also used a pixel-based strip, which I've used on other things before. But again, the closeness of these and the fact if you look at the old RGB strips that were on here before, as they come around some of these curves and stuff, and the fact that this is a round wire just didn't sit well for using a strip material. So I wanted to use seed pixels for a while, and I thought this would be a perfect application for them. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is to lay out my seed pixels on the frame here. But because I don't know exactly how long of a string I'm going to end up putting on each of these stars, I'm just going to tack them in place temporarily with these little wire strips that I've cut, so that I can come back later on and add my connectors. So here is the start of my pixel string, and I've already gone ahead and added my preferred connector to this first end. So we'll go ahead and start tacking these into my star prop. All right, now that I have got this laid out on the first star, I'm going to go ahead and cut this so I can start on the next one. Now, one downside of getting a seed pixel that is this close together is I want to leave some wire on the end so I can add on my output connector here. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to cut very close to the next seed pixel to leave a little bit of space there. So unfortunately, this means I'm going to sacrifice one seed pixel, because now I'm going to have to cut this again on the other side so I have some room for my input connector to be soldered on here. So we'll go to that, like that. And now we're going to go ahead and do the other 4 stars in the exact same way. Now that I have all of my seed pixels cut for each one of the stars, the next thing I'm going to do is add these connectors that I have pre-made onto the inputs and outputs of each of my stars. Now, a couple of things here. You want to be very careful to maintain and identify which end of these is your input and which end is your output. So I'm actually only going to take these off one at a time as I add my connectors. I'm also going to add connectors to each star, and I'm going to do this for a couple of reasons. When I go to connect this to my controllers, I've decided that I am going to use 4 controller outputs to connect all 5 of my stars. So that means the first 3 stars are going to be on their own controller outputs, and then the 4th and 5th star will be on a single controller output. And I'll just join the output from star 4 to the input of star 5 to do that. And I'm going to do that for a couple of reasons. One of which is power injection. Now again, I've never used these seed pixels before, and these are 5-volt seed pixels. 5-volt just tends to be my personal preference, although I do understand you have to do power injection a little bit more often than if I had used a 12-volt pixel. But I went ahead and got 5-volt pixels because, again, that's just my typical standards. So I don't know if I'm going to have to do power injection on some of these larger stars here. And by having an output connector on the end of my string, then I can do power injection on the output side. Hopefully not have to do power injection in between on any of these larger seed pixel runs. Everything I've heard about seed pixels says I should be able to run a little bit longer strings of seed pixels without doing power injection, but we'll see. But if I do need to do power injection, I can do it on the end of the string rather than hopefully in the middle of the strings. The other reason that I'm going to split this across 4 output channels for my controllers is simply for some redundancy. Depending upon how many pixels this ends up being, which we don't know yet, we'll figure that out in a little bit. I might be able to combine more of these stars, but if I have a failure in one star, then it won't necessarily interrupt the workings of the other stars. So now we'll go ahead and add our connectors. Now that I have all of my connectors attached to my strings of seed pixels, I can go ahead and start fixing them to the various stars here on my prop. But a couple of pointers real quick. These seed pixel wires are so small and tiny that it was a real challenge soldering my connector ends to them, especially given the 1.5 centimeter spacing between pixels. So if I had had a longer spacing on that, that would have made that a little bit easier. The other thing being the wire is so tiny that the heat shrink tubing that I used to cover my wires from my connector to my seed pixel didn't fully shrink down around the pixel wire itself. So what I ended up doing is using just a little bit of super glue to seal this end here that starts my seed wire to give that a little bit better sense of waterproofing. I'm going to go ahead and start attaching my string of seed pixels here to my prop, and just to make sure that I put them with the correct direction facing up, I'm going to go ahead and plug them into a little controller that I have that I use for troubleshooting, and that way they'll light up as I start to attach them. And I'm just going to use standard cable ties to attach my pixels. Again, we want to make sure that they are pointing in the correct direction. So as I end up setting in my first string of pixels on this, it looks like I could have gone a couple of pixels longer on this particular string, but I don't think it's going to cause that big of an issue, especially given that this will be 10 feet in the air and probably 30 feet from anybody who's going to see it. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with my other stars. One other tip is, if I want all my connectors here to end up at about the same position so that they all tie into the same position to my wiring that runs to my controllers, I need to remember to make each one of these connector wires a little bit longer for each subsequent star. If I made them all the same, my connectors would be offset a little bit. So that's just another tip. And the other tip is, I think it worked really well to have these plugged in and running as a way to just keep them face up and aligned. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and do this to all of the other stars. Now I've got all of my pixel strings attached here on the frame, and a couple of things that I learned along the way is that I found if I didn't tie in right on all of these angle points here, when I got to the end, I could actually come back and adjust some of these and slide these around so that all of my pixels met from my start to my end. So that was a nice little tip. The other thing I found is to really keep this flat, you want to be generous with the cable ties. Not that you need it to go every single one, but certainly every single 3 or every 4 is not unheard of. The other thing is, I have noticed, because this is on a round wire frame, that these will tend to spin a bit. So every now and then I go back and have to make sure that the C pixel is facing outwards rather than getting turned to the side. But easy thing to do. So the next step on this is going to be to determine exactly how many pixels are on each particular star, which is something that I did not determine beforehand because I frankly had no idea. And I could sit and count each one individually, but I think I have a better idea that might be a little more fun. So in order to determine how many pixels are on each one of my stars, I've gone ahead and opened up the interface that I use to program my controllers. And as you can see, this is a Falcon Pixel controller. I'm on the port configuration screen, and I've gone ahead and started to define my first 4 stars here. And as you can see, I've got my universe, start channel, number of pixels, and then they have this group count, which we'll leave as 1. So to determine how many pixels are on each star, I'm going to go over to the test mode, and I'm just going to enable a red ramp. And then what you're going to see on the star in the background is, because I have in my output settings 1 pixel defined, you'll see those first 4 pixels turn red. Now what I can do is just slowly increase my pixel count and watch what happens on my star. So for star 1, I'm going to go ahead and increase this to 100 pixels. And I click save, and this will take a moment, and then you'll see the first 100 pixels on my star start to blink red. Now I know there that I'm not all the way around on star 1 yet. I've got a ways to go, so I'm going to increase this again to 200 pixels. Click save, wait a moment, and I'll see more of the star light up. I'm not quite there yet, so let's go 220 pixels. 220, click save, wait for a moment, and I'm getting pretty close there. Take a look at that. A little bit further to go. So let's change this to 235. We'll take a guess. Click Save. Wait for that. We're almost there. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more pixels. So I know my first star is 240 pixels. And we'll click Save. And now all of star 1 is lit. So I know star 1 has 240 pixels. Now the other thing this tells me is it tells me my end universe and end channel count. So I know my next star is going to start on universe 317 at channel 209 because I want to be one more channel than here. So I'm going to say 317 channel 209. And again, I want to start off with saying it's about 100 pixels. So we'll save that. And now we can see star 2 has lit up. We're not quite there yet. So let's add another 100 pixels into this. So I'll add 200 pixels. And that should light up right there. And it looks like we are 1 pixel short at this point. So it looks like star number 2 is 201 pixels. We'll save star number 2, and then our last pixel lit up. So now we know that star number 3 is going to start on universe 318 at channel 300. So we'll make that adjustment, and again we'll give it 100 pixels. So we'll save that. And there, star number 3 has started to light up. We're not quite all the way around yet. So let's give it another 50 pixels, like this. Save that. And we're getting pretty close. Got a little bit yet to go. Let's give it another 10 pixels. So 160 pixels. Like that. Oh, we're 3 pixels shy. So star 3 is 163 pixels. Voila, perfect. Now I can do star 4, which is going to start on universe 319 at channel 277. So 277. Again, let's give this 100 pixels. Nice round number to start with. Let's see for that. Got pretty far. Almost all the way around that one. Let's add another 20 pixels into that. So we'll save that. Oh, we are, looks like 2 pixels shy. So I'll add 2 more pixels. We'll save that. Then that completes that star. Now you notice I don't have a star 5 on here. That's because this controller has 4 outputs on this particular interface that I'm using, and I've used all 4 of them, but again I've connected star 4 to star 5. So in this case, what this controller allows me to do is create a virtual string by clicking this Add Virtual String button here, and now I can add another string in here and it says, oh, star 5, because it took this name and then added 1. It was smart enough to do that. Also notice that it was smart enough to pick up the universe and starting channel number from my last string here and said universe 320 starting channel 131. So let's do that. Copied the same number of pixels just for grins. Let's just start at 100 pixels. We'll see what this does. And there is star number 5. Now it looks like we might have gone a little bit over. So let's back this down a little bit. Back down to 75 pixels. Let's see what that does. And again, you can kind of see that all of my pixels are not flashing anymore when this happens. What I can do is simply go in and change to a different color. And come back to my string ports. You can see some of those pixels are still red, while most of them are flashing green now. And I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 red pixels there. So I know I need to add 7 more onto my count here. So that would make 82 pixels. Save that. And that will change. And all of my pixels are now green on my star. So using this method, you can see that I've determined that my first star is 240 pixels, my second star is 201 pixels, my third star is 163 pixels, my fourth star is 122 pixels, and my fifth star is 82 pixels. And I also now have my controller programmed for this star. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this video on how I converted this 5-channel star prop to use these seed RGB pixels. If you have, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and enjoy our other videos. Thanks much!